Today on Continue Cooking, we'll be making Dakgalbi, a spicy Korean chicken stir-fry.
Here's our ingredients for our Dakgalbi, which is the spicy Korean chicken stir-fry. We have about 500 grams of boneless, skinless chicken thighs here, or 1 pound. We have some tteokbokki-style, which is rice cakes, Korean rice cakes that are typically used in a dish called tteokbokki, but they're very nice in this as well. We have a couple of green onions. We've got some green cabbage, a carrot that we're going to be cutting into matchsticks, and some Korean sweet potato or koguma. And we have gnip or perilla leaves. Here is our sauce and marinade for the Dakgalbi. We're going to have gochujang, which is the fermented Korean red pepper paste. We have gochugaru, which are Korean red chili flakes. We're going to have a little bit of garlic here that I throw around. So garlic, a little bit of minced ginger. We're going to add a bit of Korean curry powder. This is medium. You can do mild or whatever you want. A little bit of white sugar. This is corn syrup or oligodang in Korean. This is rice wine or matsul. You can use mirin for this instead. We also have some sesame oil and some soy sauce. All right, first off, we're going to make our sauce. So we're going to use a tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of gochugaru. Gochugaru is one of those ingredients that's very easy to get off Amazon or anything like that. We're going to use 1 teaspoon of Korean curry powder. And now we're going to add the wet ingredients. So we'll add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of our matsul or mirin, a half a tablespoon of our corn syrup or oligodang. If you do not have this, you can just add more sugar, but this is going to thicken it up a little bit. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of our gochujang. And one of the fun things about Dakgalbi is you can make fried rice at the end of it, which is a very enjoyable experience. I'm going to give this a quick mix. And we're going to marinate the chicken in the sauce as well. Okay, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of ginger, grated ginger. And then we're going to add about a tablespoon of minced garlic. Okay, so we're going to mix the ginger and garlic in now. Okay, we are going to reserve a little bit of this, a tablespoon or 2, if you're going to be making fried rice later, which is delicious. So I recommend you do that. And now we're going to add our chicken to it. We have our chicken thighs. I'm just going to cut them into like bite-sized pieces. First off, so they'll cook faster, and also because everything needs to be bite-sized here. It is effectively a stir fry, and you're going to be eating it directly out of the pot. So we're going to mix up our sauce here with the chicken in this delightful marinade, so we can leave that there for a little bit while we get everything else ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this koguma into, which is the word for a sweet potato, guys. I'm going to cut this sweet potato into pretty small strips or segments, because it's going to take longer to cook the sweet potato, and so we need it to be pretty small so it cooks faster. This is why I'm cutting the bigger chunks in half here, but I'm leaving the smaller chunks as is. We're cutting our green cabbage here into bite-sized pieces. It's a stir fry, so we want everything in bite-sized pieces as much as possible. And all these things are gonna go in at the same time, so we're just gonna put them into the same bowl so we can just dump it in. We're gonna add the scallion later, but I'm just gonna cut this guy in half, the white part. And we're gonna cut this into pretty big chunks as well. We need to soak our tteok in water for about 20 minutes, just so that we get it nice and soft for the time that we're gonna add it to the stir fry. So we're gonna leave this here for just a little bit before we start the stir frying process. We have mostly everything prepared now, but we still have this, and this is called gnip. So gnip is a Korean ingredient. It's also a Japanese ingredient called shiso. It is the leaf of the perilla plant. It could be known as a beefsteak plant in English. It has these serrated edges, and it is frequently used to wrap food in Korean and Japanese cuisine. It is very herbal tasting, if you guys haven't had it. It tastes a little bit like mint, It tastes a little bit like basil. It tastes a little bit like sesame. It tastes a little bit like licorice or anise. It has a very distinct flavor. And when you make a sam in Korean food, which is one of the wraps that you make with meat and rice and you wrap it up, usually you'll have these on the table at the same time as more traditional lettuce. But this is an ingredient that is going to go into the dakgalbi part of the stir fry to add more flavor, and then you can also use it as a wrap for the ingredients in dakgalbi. For me, it's really essential that this is in here because it adds so much flavor. If you don't want to make it with this, you may not enjoy the flavor, so that's just is what it is. You don't have to include it. I'm going to cut this into strips so that it is evenly distributed in the final product of our dakgalbi. So I used 8 leaves here, and we will add those later on and wilt them into the dish with the green onions here. So our ingredients are now prepped. There's a lot of cutting today, and this is the reality of stir-fry dishes, guys, is that 90% of the prep is just cutting things. One of the things that is very interesting is just the difference in philosophy in cooking between places like China and the West. So in the West, obviously, we have knives on the table in which to cut our food, but that would be considered very barbaric in China because their food is stir-fried and their food is pre-cut so that it's all bite-sized so that you can just eat it with chopsticks and not have to hack away at things while it's on the table. So this is why when we make stir-fries, everything is going to be cut in advance into bite-sized portions, and then it's going to be cooked very rapidly. So once you're actually in the cooking process, it goes very quickly, but beforehand, it can be a little bit laborious. And it's time for another food history with MonteCristo. And the history of dakgalbi is this is a very famous dish from the Chuncheon region. Chuncheon is a city in Korea that is a little bit northeast of Seoul. And Chuncheon, this is their regional dish. And it came about, it's pretty recent actually. Dakgalbi only started being made after the Korean War in the 1960s. Chuncheon, because of its proximity to North Korea, was actually one of the first cities to be hit when North Korea invaded South Korea at the start of the Korean War. And as such, it was one of the most destroyed cities. So people there tended to be fairly poor. And so a lot of Korean traditional dishes that included pork, for example, became too expensive. So they started to use chicken instead in some of their pork dishes. And we end up with dakgalbi. They realized it was great, figured out this awesome recipe. And so Chuncheon has given us this really, really good chicken dish called dakgalbi, which is the spicy chicken stir fry. So that is actually where dakgalbi came from, but it's not some sort of ancient Korean dish. It is in fact post-war. Dakgalbi is a dish that if you go to a restaurant in Chuncheon, which I like to do because dakgalbi is delicious whenever we're in Chuncheon, especially because Legoland is there and we take our kids, we go and eat some dakgalbi. It is typically served at the table. So like Korean barbecue, there will be a burner in the middle of the table and they will put a really big carbon steel pan and it's going to be cooked in front of you. So you are literally eating it directly out of the pan. And then at the end of the meal, you can choose to have them make some fried rice in that same pan, which is what we're going to be doing today. However, this doesn't take long to cook, as you will see. So once you have your marinade that we made earlier and kind of pre-cut all your ingredients, we can more or less just throw it into a pan and it'll cook very quickly. You could use a wok for this. You could use a carbon steel wok. You could use a carbon steel pan. I'm going to be using a 12-inch cast iron skillet, which will also work. So I'm turning my cast iron pan onto medium right now. So the stove is going to be on medium. And we're just going to kind of dump everything in there at once. We're going to dump the chicken in the sauce, in the marinade that we made. We're going to add the cabbage here, and the sweet potatoes, and the tteok, which is the rice cakes. We're going to put them all in at the same time and let them cook together. So it's really easy to make, guys, which is nice. So we're going to add all of it together. I am going to add just a little bit of vegetable oil to this, but remember, there's also oil in our sauce, so we don't need to add too much. I'm just gonna scrape the sauce out of the pan here because we want to keep the sauce in. So mine was on kind of like medium high while I heated the pan, so I just turned it down to medium, but you can just start it on medium. Add our tteokbokki and our cabbage and our sweet potato. So if it's too hot and it's browning really fast, you can turn this down. But you know, it's gonna brown, and we want some Maillard reaction, and the marinade, it has sugar in it. So it'll probably take about 5 minutes to cook this before we're gonna add the green onions and the kidney. You're gonna wanna stir it a little bit just to get it cooked evenly. I'm scraping the bottom of this pan with our wooden spatula just to make sure that we don't get anything burning on the bottom. All right, this is getting pretty soft, so we're gonna add now the kidney and the green onions to this. And we just want to wilt this. So as you can see now, we have the kidney nice and wilting in there. We want to get it soft. This is going to add an herbal flavor. So it's like a fresh herb. So everything's nice and soft now. I have, what this says is mozzarella pizza cheese in Korean. So this is just some shredded mozzarella. Cheese is great on things like buldak. Love cheese on buldak. And you can do this a couple of ways. So you could spread this out on top and then toss it in your oven with the broiler on to like broil it, melt it all on top. I'm just gonna go ahead and mix it in here. Koreans love mozzarella cheese in stuff, like buldak or fried rice. Ooh yeah, you can see it's all sticky. See those little sticky cheese? So there you go. We don't need to do it very long because the cheese is going to melt quickly. So I'm turning off the heat now because everything else is done. All right, here's our dakgalbi. The little ganip there. Tastes great. The sauce clings to it very nicely. And it's not too spicy. And we also have our tteokbokki-style, which is nice and soft. And our cabbage. And our koguma, or Korean sweet potato. Yeah, for me, I need more of the ganip or perilla leaf. And I like to put a couple nice pieces of chicken in here and add some of the cabbage. And then you can go ahead and just wrap it up. That's great. When you're having your dakgalbi, it's totally okay just to eat it with white rice right now. However, if you are in Korea, a common way to eat this is you will just pick it out of the pan in the center of the table, and at the end, you will have your carbs. So maybe you have a naengmyeon, which is an iced noodle soup, or they're going to make bokkeumbap right at your table for you, which is really fun. So I'm gonna show you how to do the bokkeumbap, which is the fried rice. You pick at the cabbage, you pick at the tteok, because there's carbs in here. There's the tteok, the rice cake. You eat the chicken, and when you were done with that, the remainder of what was in the pan would then be made with fried rice. So they'll bring some rice to your table, and they'll go ahead and fry it. So that's what we're gonna do right now. First up though, I'm going to go ahead and fry an egg to add to this, and we're gonna wanna do it sunny side up. All right, so for the fried rice, I froze a couple of servings, 2 to 3 cups of cooked rice last night. So we get that retrogradation that is going to make it a little bit less sticky, right? It'll make the individual grains less sticky. And most importantly is that it locks the water content inside the rice as the gluten recrystallizes. And that means we're gonna be able to get a sear on the rice. I've got a piece of American cheese here, which is gonna be nice on top. It'll make it nice and pretty. You'll notice that this pan, I'm not bothering to clean it out, and this is just how it would be when you get your fried rice after the meal. Remember how we reserved a couple tablespoons of the sauce that we were marinating the chicken in earlier? This is why we reserved it. We will add our refrigerated or frozen rice. If you have just made rice that day, you can put it out on a baking sheet and cool it. That will also be effective, but really just freezing it overnight is probably your best choice. So I'm not going to, it's still kind of frozen, so I'm just gonna break it up. As it heats and absorbs some of the oil, it'll break up too. And I wanna mix it with the sauce that's in the pan, get it nice and red. Simultaneously, I'm going to crack an egg here. You can't see this, but just fry an egg in a little bit of oil or butter, sunny side up. You can see our rice is starting to brown here a little bit. But I wanna smash this as much as I can, get rid of some of these chunks, incorporate the sauce. So why I'm spreading it out on the pan is that I'm trying to crisp the bottom. And I'm going to add some kim, which is dried seaweed, to this. I'm just gonna crunch this up into smaller pieces. So we're gonna add some of these sunny side up eggs here. So now what I'm gonna do, that our rice is fried a little bit, is grab something to hold this with, number one. And number two is we're going to start to just smash it all together and stir fry it. And you can see the black bits are mostly the Kim guys, but it will have fried the rice some. And this is going to be so good. You just eat this right out of the middle of the table with the spoons. Everybody would just dive in with their spoons. And you can totally, like I said, whatever leftover cabbage or chicken bits go in there too at the end of the meal. Excellent, just excellent. All right, here's our fried rice or bokkeumbap after making our dakgalbi. We got a little bit of roasted seaweed in here, our eggs. Nice and crunchy from the fried rice. The flavor of the dakgalbi sauce in there, really good.